I'm here. You may know me from my channel where I talk about topics related to international relations, global politics, and current events. But today, I want to share something different with you. Today I'll be reading from my upcoming book, The Journalist and the Optimist, which tells the story of Ahmed and Layla from Gaza. In the heart of Gaza, where the sky is often veiled in smoke and the streets are filled with dust and debris, a young man named Ahmed walks the narrow, crumbling alleys. At 22, he is an aspiring journalist, driven by a singular goal to tell the world about Gaza's unseen suffering. Despite the endless cycle of war and destruction, Ahmed holds onto a flicker of hope, believing that through his writing, he can be the voice of the voiceless. Since his father was killed in an airstrike 2 years ago, Ahmed has been the protector of his younger sister, Layla, a 7-year-old girl who still dreams of a life filled with laughter. Despite the brutal realities of Gaza, Layla, with her innocent, unwavering smile, is the only light left in his life, and for her, Ahmed continues to push forward, even when every day feels like an uphill battle. One evening, while Ahmed is sitting in their makeshift living room, scribbling in his journal by the dim light of a candle, the sound of fighter jets grows louder, and the ground trembles beneath them. Another bombing. The windows rattle, and within moments, an explosion rocks their building, sending debris crashing down. Ahmed rushes to Layla's room, and through the chaos, finds her unconscious under the rubble. Blood stains the floor, but, miraculously, she is still alive. In a panic, Ahmed carries her through the darkened streets of Gaza, dodging fallen buildings and collapsed power lines, all while trying to reach the nearest medical center. But when he arrives, he finds it overcrowded, under-resourced, and overwhelmed by the sheer number of casualties. Layla is badly injured, her arm broken, and her body bruised. Yet her eyes, despite the pain, hold a silent plea for hope. As days pass, Ahmed watches helplessly as the city sinks deeper into despair. But even in this sea of destruction, he clings to his belief that there is more to Gaza than just bombs and bloodshed. He begins writing with more urgency, sending out his stories to international media outlets, hoping that his words will carry the stories of Gaza's people to the world. In a city where communication is often cut off, where silence reigns as the real enemy, Ahmed is determined to be heard. Months later, his work begins to gain traction, his writings detailing the lives of ordinary Gazans, their struggles, their hopes, and their resilience are published in international outlets. He starts receiving messages from journalists and activists across the globe, offering support, resources, and even a platform to amplify his voice, but with every new article published, the situation in Gaza worsens. The airstrikes become more frequent, the bombs grow heavier, and the death toll rises. Ahmed's commitment to the cause becomes all-consuming. He starts organizing small meetings with fellow young people in Gaza, hoping to spark a conversation about change. He believes that the youth of Gaza, though surrounded by war, still hold the key to a different future, a future not defined by violence but by resilience, creativity, and hope. Layla, now recovering from her injuries, becomes Ahmed's source of inspiration. Although the war has taken away much of her innocence, her love for life remains undiminished. She frequently asks her brother about the world beyond Gaza, about what it might be like to live in peace, and about the stories he writes. Despite the unimaginable pain they endure, Layla's unwavering optimism serves as a reminder to Ahmed that there is always hope even in the darkest of times. Then, tragedy strikes again. Ahmed receives the devastating news that his close friend Mohammed, a fellow humanitarian worker, has been killed in an airstrike. Mohammed had been one of the most active voices calling for peace in Gaza. His loss hits Ahmed hard, for Mohammed was not only a friend but also a symbol of what it means to live for something greater than oneself. The grief weighs heavily on Ahmed, and for a brief moment, he contemplates giving up. But as he sits in silence, surrounded by the ruins of his city, he remembers Mohammed's words, "The fight for hope never ends, Ahmed. We must keep moving, even if it's one small step at a time." Determined not to let Mohammed's death be in vain, Ahmed intensifies his efforts. He begins using his platform to speak about the need for international support, for a true end to the violence, and for the people of Gaza to be given the tools to rebuild their lives. He knows that it won't be easy. Peace is a far-off dream, but he believes it as a dream worth chasing. Months pass, and Ahmed's work reaches new heights. An international news outlet offers him an opportunity to cover the ongoing situation in Gaza. He agrees, knowing that this could be his chance to make an even greater impact. His first piece is a deeply personal reflection on the cost of war, on the lives lost, the dreams shattered, and the families torn apart. But amidst the pain, he also writes about the courage of ordinary people who rise each day to face the unimaginable. He writes about Layla, who, despite everything, still believes that one day, Gaza will rise again. Ahmed's writing, along with his ability to show the world Gaza's true face, gains global attention. He speaks at international forums, sharing his experiences, his stories, and his dream of a better future for Gaza. The world begins to pay attention, and slowly, the tides of change seem to turn. Aid begins to flow into Gaza, not just as charity, but as a lifeline to a people who have endured too much. However, despite the international recognition, the violence does not cease. The airstrikes continue, the uncertainty remains, and Gaza still feels like a war zone. But Ahmed is no longer fighting just for survival. He is fighting for a vision. A vision where Gaza's story is not one of victimhood, but of resilience, strength, and an unyielding desire to live in peace. Ahmed, now a young man whose face is known across the world, returns to Gaza after a long trip abroad. He is older, wearier, but no less determined. Layla, now a teenager, greets him with the same bright smile she had when they were children. Though the city remains in ruins, there is a subtle change in the air, a sense that something is shifting, slowly but surely. One evening, as Ahmed stands at the edge of Gaza, looking out over the horizon, he knows that the road ahead is long and fraught with hardship. But for the first time in years, he feels a flicker of peace. Maybe it's not peace in the conventional sense, not the absence of war, but the presence of hope, of possibility, of people refusing to be broken. And as the sun sets behind the broken skyline of Gaza, Ahmed knows one thing for certain: hope is the one thing they can never take away. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this story, please consider pre-ordering my upcoming book, The Journalist and the Optimist. Your support means the world to me and helps me continue telling important stories like these. You can find more information below. Again, thank you for listening. Take care, and I'll see you next time.